Welcome everyone to another episode of BizzTalk Africa. And I am your host, Jason Schuster, and my wonderful co-host, Vidya Mike, calling in from New York today. Exciting, Vidi. Glad to have you here. And we have an awesome guest with us today, Davidson Oturu, who is from Nigeria and is representing his firm. And is it Alex?
Yes, that's Alex. You got it right.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. Yeah.
Awesome. I did a good job. Really excited to have Davidson here today, and we have a really cool topic: intellectual property rights in Africa. Davidson, could you give us a few minutes, your background, a little bit about yourself, kind of so the audience knows kind of where you're coming from, where your perspective is coming from?
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Jason and Vidi. Great to be here and to be talking to the live audience. So my name is Davidson Oturu. I'm a partner at the firm of Alex. So Alex is what we call a full service law firm. That means we do quite a number of things, right? You know, we cover areas of law that covers corporate commercial law, mergers and acquisitions, taxation, you know, energy and power and stuff like that. But in the firm, I tend to do the very interesting stuff. And I advise clients on protection of their intellectual property rights. So my clients tend to be in technology space, in the telecommunication space, in the media space, financial technology, fintech, which is quite big in Africa now, you know, also form part of my clients as well, you know. So I advise them on a number of things around corporate commercial, intellectual property protection, and some M&A type stuff, especially when they get involved in acquisition type transactions. So my office in Nigeria, we have 3 offices, one in Lagos, which is like the commercial capital of Nigeria. There's one in Abuja, that's the Federal Capital Territory. And then there's one in Port Harcourt, which is what we call the oil city. We also have an office in Accra, Ghana as well, full service as well. So we're able to provide services to a good number of clients in the West African continent. Of course, Nigeria and Ghana are both English-speaking countries, and some of the larger economies in the Western African hemisphere. So that's a bit about what we do at the moment.
Excellent. And what about you, Davidson? What do you do at the firm? What's kind of your specialty that you bring to the table?
All right, thanks. So, like I had hinted earlier, my background is intellectual property, corporate commercial law as well. So I have a couple of things that I do, which makes my practice unique, right? I have an LLM, that's a master's in law in international business and intellectual property. I also have an MBA in corporate finance and entrepreneurship. Now, the reason why these particular qualifications were deliberately honed and gotten was because of the type of clients that I work with. I work with a lot of startups, companies that are looking to scale. And so most times I have to be able to advise them on how they can build their businesses in such a way that they are attractive to investors. Most of them now, they've moved from Series A to Series B and Series C. What is critical and important for them is actually protecting their intellectual property. Because think about it, when a startup is starting out, it basically has nothing much going for it. They've gotten funds from family, friends, and founders, but it's not enough for them to be able to do much, right? But what I tend to do with them is we identify the creative ideas they have, we identify the technology that they are building, and we say, this is actually something that you should protect. So we're able to help them identify those things, package it together, and then protect it effectively for them. Of course, I also deal with established companies as well, helping them out with their franchises. I've done a couple of franchises, and franchising is basically leveraging on intellectual property. A few that I've done here, they include Domino Pizzas, Johnny Rocket, a few African franchises like ShopRite and the likes of them. So again, helping them to protect their IP rights in Nigeria and Ghana, and also leveraging on that to be able to make profit out of their businesses.
Do you find, and I'm sure Jason missed me because we have another long-standing joke within us because I talk a lot. Do you find that that clients sometimes don't even realize that they have intellectual property and they sort of focusing in one direction, but when you come in, your USP and added value is like, hey, let me take a look at what you've got here, and you've got something. Because as a startup, you're thinking, okay, look, I have this amount of money, I need to do this, this, and this. The last thing they're thinking is like, I'm going to pay for professional services for advice. But from what you're saying, what has been your success rate in onboarding a new client, or just even having a conversation with them and saying, you know what, actually, you do have intellectual property, or you do have a product. If you change your strategy slightly, you now have something you can franchise, because maybe they were thinking about, verticals in a market. The last thing they were thinking is about franchising. Do you feel, so my question is two parts here. One, your added value surprised some of your clients because they didn't have a clue that they had something to protect. And two, you were able to look at their business model and help them streamline it slightly so that their product offering is different to what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, so very, very great question. So on the first part, I basically see that on a regular basis, because most of them, most are just thinking about deploying their products or something like that. And I'll give you this as an example. So there's a client of mine, what they've come up with is what is called soilless technology. So they can grow agriculture, they can grow plants and all of that without soil. Yeah, with the use of technology. And the founder was so excited and all of that, she was saying, oh, we will do this and we'll do that. So I said, okay, well, have you thought about trademarking your product? And she was like, no, that as far as she's concerned, trademark is the last thing. And I had to give her some analogies. I was like, look, if you go to Google Play Store and you're trying to locate Instagram, right? But Instagram doesn't have a trademark, that round thing. How would you know that is Instagram? There can be so much value behind Instagram, but nobody knows. Take LinkedIn, for instance, or WhatsApp. The only reason you want to click on WhatsApp is because you've seen the trademark. That icon that you see that looks like a green phone and with a white, that's the trademark. If that trademark wasn't there, you wouldn't know what to click on. So I had to make her understand that trademark is arguably the most important part of what you do. Arguably your most valuable IP, because without the trademark, which forms an identity and a source of, sometimes there's even the emotional side that is given to a trademark. For folks who like to use Apple phones or Apple products, once they see that half-eaten apple, they just bond immediately either with the product or with the person who is holding the product. So they even call them tribes, as in we belong to the Apple tribe, so that's how it works.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, there you go. I don't use Apple though, so well, I can't identify with that. But at the end of the day, you have a situation where because of the value that is derived out of that, you can license it. And Apple sits pretty, in out of their headquarters. They don't need to do anything, but because they've created that identity around their brand, they can license it, they can franchise it. So I open their eyes most times to these things, right? I use examples like even Michael Jackson, who is dead and gone, but his IP still lives, and can be licensed. You have a lot of these celebrities now who have all manner of very valuable things. I recall recently somebody's dress was auctioned for maybe about $500,000 and that dress probably cost I don't know, maybe less than $100 or thereabouts, but because out of IP comes brand in itself, So brand is an extension of trademark. Trademarks move from being what they are to now become brands. And you have very valuable brands out there who are leveraging on IP. So that's the first part. I get that a lot. And people are always telling me, look, man, they don't see this. But by the time I walk them through, they're ready to get going. And I think the second question is related to that, because by the time there's an understanding around IP, we're now able to leverage off that, So we register the trademark, and then we look at how we can create value out of it.
Right.
So, and now, with being able to securitize your IP rights, I let them see that, look, Google's trademarks now are valued in billions of dollars. So Google can probably never go broke, because if anything is happening, then they can deposit just one of their trademarks certificates with Bank of America. And those guys will be willing to give them billions of dollars, because they know that if Google defaults on its obligations, then they hold arguably one of the most valuable brands in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good questions, Viddy, and fantastic. Fantastic answer, Davidson. And it's funny you mentioned soilless farming. We actually had a guest here a couple months ago that was doing soilless farming. So Samson. I don't remember how to pronounce his last name. But anyways, really, really cool stuff. So it's good to see more of that happening. So kind of bringing the topic around to more specific to Africa. How do IP rights work in Africa? Let's start with Nigeria in particular.
All right. So, of course, you know that there are major IP rights, right? There's trademark, patent, copyright, designs, and trade secrets. Those are the major IP that you will find in Africa. So, the thing about IP rights in Africa generally is that it's territorial, which means that if your IP is protected in Nigeria, then it's only in Nigeria. So, for instance, if Jason is interested in getting a trademark in Nigeria, then he has to come to Nigeria and register in Nigeria. And that doesn't give him automatic protection in other jurisdictions. So if he goes to Mali, for instance, somebody else may decide to register a similar mark as he is in Mali because it is territorial. Of course, there are a few conventions and agreements that a lot of African countries have signed up to, like Nigeria, for instance. You have the TRIPS, that is the agreement on the trade-related intellectual property rights. You have the Paris Convention, the Hague Convention. Now, these are agreements and conventions that sort of allow you to be able to acknowledge that certain marks exist, like famous and well-known trademarks, right? So let me just do a segue on that. McDonald's doesn't have, I doubt if they have their IP in Nigeria. I'm not sure that their trademarks are registered because I've not seen any McDonald's in Nigeria. If I decide to go to the trademarks registry, I may be able to register McDonald's. But what some of these conventions actually provide is that because the McDonald's trademark is a famous and well-known mark, the registries should be able to see that mark and refuse registering it, right? But we don't get that in Nigeria just yet, because even though that agreement has been signed, that's the TRIPS agreement now, it's not been domesticated yet in Nigeria, so it doesn't have the force of law. So that means that I may be able to get away with McDonald's mark, which means that McDonald's may have to come to me later on to say, well, can we buy that mark of you? Or they go to court to challenge it on the grounds of passing off, which is the common law provision for protecting your marks that are not registered in Nigeria. So you have trademarks, which you have to register. You have patents. So trademarks deals with signs, logos, identifiers like I'd used. Patents deals with inventions, so you have to create something that is novel or is an improvement of something that already exists. Copyright deals with expression of ideas. So you may have a lovely song that you have in your mind, and as long as it remains in your mind, it can be protected. Even if you sing it out, it can be protected. You have to actually fix it in a medium. But the interesting thing about copyright is that unlike trademark, patents, and designs, for instance, it enjoys automatic protection once you express it in a fixed medium. So I could put it in a CD, I could save it on my phone, on my laptop, I could type it out, I could create literary works, software, and stuff like that. Once I have it in a fixed medium, it enjoys automatic protection. We do have a copyright commission, though, where you could go to sort of register it so that there's a public record of your copyright, and it gives you a date and all of that, so that if somebody else comes up with a similar creation, you can say, hey, I got it first, so you can claim rights over that. Designs deals with the aesthetics, so for instance, the shape of my HP laptop and all of that, shape of the mug, those are design rights which you have to register as well. And then trade secrets, we don't have a Trade Secrets Act in Nigeria. It's not a statutory protection, but it comes by virtue of common law protection, as well as the agreements of parties. So you use things like non-disclosure and non-circumvention agreements to protect your trade secrets. And as you know, once a trade secret becomes known by anybody other than those who keep it as a secret, it loses its protection. So those are the major IP rights that we have in Nigeria. And there are different modes of protection for patent, trademarks, and designs. Is you go to their respective registry and have them registered there. For copyright, like I said, you can go to the Copyright Commission and have an external record what already exists. And you see this happen in most countries in Africa as well. Those different registries and those different procedures for registration. Of course, like I said, it's territorial, but there are regional filing systems, which we can also shed some light on as well, on those.
So the branch of law that governs, is it from British or French, or, what was the sort of parent for it? And then, of course, it became its own.
Yeah, so I always like VD's questions. No offense, Jason.
No.
So
Vinny's good.
So Nigeria is what you would call a common law jurisdiction, right? Hence, we belong to the Commonwealth of Nations. So the effect of that is that Nigeria was colonized by the British, which means that we practice the common law to a large extent, and our IP laws are customized along with the UK laws. And I'll give you this: the Nigerian Trademarks Act is a law of 1967. Get that right? And it was modeled against the UK trademarks, the English Trademarks Act of 1965. So we're basically dealing with the 1965 legislation for our trademark law. For patents and designs, that is the 1970 law, which again was modeled after the UK law. So yeah, a couple of things are outdated, and there are some bills pending before the National Assembly in Nigeria. So part of what I also do as part of my advocacy efforts is I belong to a few organizations like the International Trademark Association, and we've been pushing for amendments to some of the laws in Nigeria. And there are a couple of other local bodies as well, trying to work towards amendment or a repeal of these laws, because a lot has happened in the IP space. So it almost
Absolutely.
looks like the practitioners are working ahead of the law, and the law is not even trying to catch up. The law is just static in the 60s.
And in many respects, they're probably also looking for those little gaps that they could sort of twist it for some sort of benefit, right? So,
well,
interesting.
Yeah, we have to find a way around some of those limitations.
So I mean, this is really attractive for some British companies that actually have their trademarks, have their copyrights, etc. Because Nigeria is a huge market and such a great foothold into Africa for British companies. They could certainly contact you in terms of actually then also registering in Nigeria and starting to get into the Nigerian market and West African market.
Yeah, so I would say for our IP portfolio for my firm, at a point, 95% of our IP work were actually done for US and UK companies. Nice. Maybe over the last 5 years, that has changed, and it changed because the economy started facing certain issues, which made it a little less attractive for some of these foreign clients we had. And it now made us to start looking inward because we realized that we needed to grow the Nigerian market in itself. And people needed to become more aware of their IP rights. So there's been a lot of advocacy and enlightenment on IP, which means that the Nigerian market is now beginning to grow more than it was. And I would then say that our IP portfolio has probably, maybe foreign now is about 75 to 80%, and the Nigerian market is actually probably capturing about 20% of our IP work. But yeah, most of it is still foreign clients, and most of them are always looking to register or to protect their marks in Nigeria. So I have a few clients. I don't want to drop names and make it look like I'm very popular, but we do have quite a number of clients, popular brands as well in the US and the UK that we represent in different markets. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. My questions aren't as exciting as Viddy's, but are more specific to just like, kind of what's going on right now. Something
very practical question.
Yeah. So you already talked about how, there's do you want to expand on regional filing systems at all? Again, so if I want to do something, if I want to trademark something or patent something, I definitely wouldn't want to do it just for one part of Africa, or one country, right? I would really try to push for as much protection as I can get. What do I need to do?
Okay, so at the moment, there are 54 countries in Africa. Of course, some folks are trying to break away from different places and create their own countries. But we're watching that. So at the moment, there are 54 countries in Africa. And so that's quite a number, right? And different things happening. So what you then have are regional filing systems. There is the OAPI filing system, which basically caters to French-speaking countries. So history shows that in Africa, there were a couple of countries that were colonized by different world powers. Then, you had the French and you had the English. Of course, the Portuguese also had a few, and I think probably German too. But these are the major, branches. You see the Portuguese and the UK. So OAPI, I think there are about 17 countries that belong to OAPI. Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Benin. Quite a number. And what happens with OAPI is I could go to Cameroon, for instance, and register my mark there. And while registering it, I will go to the OAPI registry and tell them that I also want to protect my mark or my patent in those 17 other countries that are under the OAPI. So I'm able to pick them and then pay the filing fees and have my mark registered in the OAPI countries. Same thing too with ARIPO as well. So ARIPO deals with the English-speaking countries, and I think there are about 18 countries that are under the ARIPO system. So the same thing could happen as well. I could go to Kenya, which has an ARIPO registry, and tell them that I want to register my mark in Kenya. So I pick the different countries that I want. I may not want all of them, but I just pick them out and then have them registered. So that's how the regional filing system helps in having those block filings. Some countries, though, don't belong to either OAPI or ARIPO, either because, they're not French-speaking or English-speaking, and also because they choose not to sign up. So, for instance, Nigeria doesn't belong to ARIPO, where they should actually be. South Africa, as well, doesn't belong to ARIPO, and Egypt doesn't belong to OAPI. So, you could have those situations, which means that you can't pick them out. You actually have to go to those specific countries and register. Now, of course, there's the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, or AFCFTA, which has been generating quite some buzz. And part of the questions been asked are, okay, could AFCFTA also potentially affect filings, because what the Continental Free Trade Agreement seems to do is to make Africa, just like you have with AFTA and the other
EU, etc.
Yeah, to have protocols around trading goods, trading services, dispute settlement,
standards, qualities, all that.
Precisely. So, well, the AFCFTA provides for IP, but it doesn't. But its protocol is not yet activated. There's a draft protocol, but it hasn't been released. So, and there are considerations that when it eventually is released and is active, it would probably be tailored along the TRIPS agreement, because in the spirit of the World Trade Organization's protocols and agreements, that's where it may end up being. But at the moment, AFCFTA doesn't have an active protocol for IP. So arguments around its applicability, considering that IP rights are territorial in nature, like I had said earlier, there will still have to be some discussions and deliberations on how it could work for some countries, especially those who haven't signed up for any of the regional finance systems.
Yeah. Wow. Really, really interesting stuff. So I guess we're almost out of time here. We have maybe 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left.
Wow.
And my question, I know time just flew by. I feel like there's some more topics here. So I think I'd love to have you back again, Davidson, here in the future, if that works for you. I'm sure there's a lot of topics here. If you had to, just a few words of advice, let's say I'm a brand new startup, and let's say I am in Nigeria, but I'm growing fast, and I find myself expanding into multiple countries in Africa quickly. What's the best way for me to approach protecting my startup, my IP?
Okay, well, so that's an interesting question. I think the first place to start really is look for the country that you feel will be your best launch pad, in terms of expansion. So pick that country and drill down as much as you can. So if, for instance, you feel it's Kenya or it's South Africa or it's Nigeria that will serve you best, then you pick there. But then you probably also look for those regional systems, because it will help you to quickly gain grounds in those other jurisdictions before you decide to finally launch there. So if you probably have like 10 countries in mind, but you feel that South Africa is your best market, then you start off with South Africa, but you probably also look at Kenya, which in East Africa is one of the major economies. Register in Kenya and then look at the ARIPO filings and get yourself registered in the English-speaking jurisdictions while doing your homework in the other places. That will probably be my short answer to that.
And I would say the first step would also be approaching someone like you, right, Davidson? I can't imagine trying to do this on I mean, someone trying to do this on their own. There's so much. I mean, this is a lot more complicated than what I deal with in the U.S., for instance. I mean, there's a lot to know. I feel like a guide like you is pretty important.
Yeah. Well, so there's a lot going on in Africa, and not much, I would say. So yeah, you really need to be able to understand the best way to launch. Of course, you hit it precisely. You need to get a very knowledgeable lawyer that understands how IP works within the continent and in the country that you want to be able to work in. And what we do as a firm is, of course, like I said, we have offices in Nigeria and Ghana, but we also have a network of different firms that cover the entire African continent. So that makes it easy for us to be able to effectively help our clients register their IP rights. So if you want to register your IP in Ethiopia, for instance, and you come to us, even though we don't have a physical office in Ethiopia, but we do have, network of firms that will work with them. And then we'll be able to effectively supervise that firm to assist our clients protect IPs.
I love it.
I'll be knocking on your door, Davidson.
Yeah, and I'll open it once you do that.
That's right. Wonderful. Davidson, thank you so much. This was a very, very informative session. Really, really cool stuff. I would love to have you back again. So let's figure out when the best time to do that is, and let's pick out some more topics around this. And sure. If for all of our viewers that are startups in Africa, that you're doing something exciting, it doesn't have to be Davidson, but they do have a good firm. Reach out to Alex, probably on their website. Reach out and they'll give you some direction and make sure you're protected as you're expanding and growing and everything. So Davidson, thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate it. It was great to meet you.
Thank you, Jason. And thanks for the plug anyway. And thank you, VD. Quite a pleasure too. Thank you for
Same here.
having me. Really. Pleasure.
Absolutely,
Brilliant.
absolutely. And Vinny, thank you so much. Your questions, as always, fantastic, very insightful. And to our viewers, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Bye,
See
everyone.
ya.
Bye.